Welcome to Missing the Mark, where we look for meaning in strange places. I'm Christopher. Today I want to talk about why it is that you should beware of praise from popular people. And I have in mind a particular sort of praise, actually. It's especially from anyone in media type stuff, so like YouTube videos and on television and so on. And you'll see this sort of phenomenon, the popular YouTuber who's got the thing about, and guys, I love you, you're the best, don't let anyone ever tell you to change, you're wonderful just the way you are. That sort of thing. That's not an imitation, by the way, of a particular YouTuber. It's sort of an amalgamation of different ones that I've seen. I've seen the same thing in lots of other contexts as well. I think you get the same thing, too, from like daytime talk show hosts. Depending on the particulars. You'll see this all over the place. It's a relatively common phenomenon. And what's going on is very simply that you have so a person who's popular has a certain amount of authority from it. It's just human nature. If lots of people like somebody, then obviously there is something important about them, and that person is specially real. It's just a human instinct. It's inevitable. If you've got somebody who gets lots of attention, then interactions with them always feel so special and so real, and there's just something about them. It's basic, just sort of a basic facet of how human beings work. As a result, their praise is very, very valuable. If you can get someone like that, somebody who's popular, somebody with a big audience to tell you, wow, you're doing well, or I love you the way you are, you're great, what have you. I'm talking at the moment in person. If they actually have some idea who the heck you are, this can feel really good because it's not really their praise that's doing it. It is essentially it is the combined praise of all of these people on that person that confers upon them the authority to pronounce how great you are. This might remind one of that famous phrase, vox populi, vox dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God. It's just a natural human thing to mistake this. Now, what you see in the media sort of thing, we get the person like, I love you guys just the way you are. You're wonderful. Keep on being so awesome, whoever you are. I have no idea because, when recording, and I'm doing this in character, when recording, the only thing I can see is the camera. And, maybe there's a person holding up or something, but I've got literally no idea who's going to see this, so I can't actually be talking to it. But through the magic of video and so on, it feels real. And, I've experienced this myself. It's kind of funny the degree to which, YouTubers that I like watching feel a little bit like synthetic friends. Like, I feel like I know them. I feel like I could, have a conversation with them and have a really good conversation. And it takes a bit of time to remind yourself, yeah, but if I ever tried, they would literally know nothing about me. And so, yeah, we could have a conversation on a topic of mutual interest, but it would still be profoundly weird for them because they would have no idea who the heck I am, even though I feel like I know them fairly well. And so, where this comes out is that there's that sort of feeling of synthetic friendship makes that thing feel real. It makes it feel like you're actually being talked to, even though at the time the person was recording that the person on the, who is in front of the camera had literally no idea that you existed, you personally existed, and yet it feels like they're talking to you, and that feels good. And there's sort of a problem there because that affirmation is completely and utterly fake, and yet it still is pleasing. It still feels like affirmation. And so this can lead to some fairly bad places. I don't think the online version is too bad in the limited sort of entirely recorded sense that you get, in YouTube. I believe, I'm not very familiar with OnlyFans. I believe that gets more pernicious because that's something that's set up to extract money from people with limited, with certain amounts of interaction that's going on. Although you can get something similar with YouTube Super Chats. And you can actually get something similar with Patreon, come to think of it. And this is just a side note, and pardon me for this complete side note, but it really is a pity that Patreon is not what its name suggests, that they are a patron of the person. Patreon is this weird sort of store in general practice. Like, it's not you sign up to be a patron of the person, giving whatever you can to help them do the thing that they're actually doing. It's mostly you buy various things, and the higher levels tend to be interaction with the person. If you look at the Patreons of popular people, they tend to generally be like, at these levels, you get to, get one email a year from the person. At this level, you get to be in a video chat with 80 other people with the person. And at this level, when you're paying them some really huge amount of money, you'll be able to have like 1 3-minute phone conversation with them a month or whatever it is. Obviously, I'm not talking about a particular one. I'm kind of making it up. But you get that same sort of thing where you get this sort of escalating access and paying for it and so on, which I think it's very unfortunate that it worked out that way. I kind of get it that, if you can use something to sell stuff, that's probably going to be better than relying upon people's charity. But the original idea of it, I think, and at least the name, where you simply are, as an act of charity, giving money to the person who is making stuff so they can keep on making the stuff that they're making, rather than this being a private channel for them to sell things. Anyway, the reason it is a little bit relevant is because it's going in that direction and has that unfortunate aspect where you end up you're spending time and effort developing a human relationship that is entirely dependent on your ability to pay for it, which is not a healthy way to have human relationships. You can do the same thing prior to this. There are people who, will become friends with their, probably not your plumber, but, you'll become sort of, friends to a degree with, like the person who comes to mow your lawn or if you have a house cleaning service or any number of things like that, or with, a person at a store that you shop at, a salesman who's there. And again, it's really a problem because the relationship is based upon your ability to pay for it. Really, at the end of the day. And it's good to become on good terms with people that you see fairly often. Like, you see somebody at a shop that you go to. It's good to be friendly with them, and it's good to care about how they're doing. And, when I go to the archery shop that I go to, I'll ask the proprietor about how his family's doing because, I hope they're doing well, and I do actually care. It's not a substitute for having actual friends, but, since I'm going to be interacting with this person, like, it's good to be friendly and to care about people you interact with. But it can have that danger of where it becomes a substitute for actual friends who are more work because, well, a person at work who's, doing his job by being there and is just going to be friendly with you and there's a certain amount of distance that's intrinsically maintained. It's not a substitute for friendship. But it's easy. And it's got that same sort of danger that video games can have. Instead of being a relaxation to recharge you from real life, they can be a substitute for real life because the rewards come with a lot less work in a video game than in real life. Whether you're talking about archery or woodworking or whatever, you have to put a lot of work in to get the rewards and those things. Video games, you have to put in like 100th or 1,000th as much work to get the same amount of reward. And therein comes the danger. These sort of synthetic friendships are dangerous for that reason. And whenever you find somebody who is giving you praise, there are several things that this can substitute for. One of them is doing things that people will praise you for just to praise you. 2, it can be a substitute for having your own accurate opinions about your own performance. It's really dangerous to want people to praise you rather than to want to be doing praiseworthy things and not worrying about whether or not they're being praised. That's really actually very important. If you want to be happy in life, you should absolutely be trying to do things that are praiseworthy. You should also at the same time not care if they are actually praised or not. If you do something praiseworthy and nobody cares, and nobody praises them, so much the worse for them. But that's it. That's as far as it goes. If you want to be happy, that's really the way it goes. It's like that scene in the wonderful movie A Man for All Seasons with St. Thomas More, when somebody asked him, Richard Rich wanted an appointment in government, and Thomas More said he did have a place for him, but it was as a teacher. He said, Richard, be a teacher. You might be a good teacher, maybe even a great one. And Richard Rich replied, but if I was, who would know it? And St. Thomas More replied, you, your pupils, your friends, God. not a bad audience, lad. And it's entirely true that, if he did this act of greatness of being a teacher, his pupils would not really be able to appreciate it very well because they don't have the knowledge yet to see how well he communicated the knowledge. And that's most of who could possibly have witnessed it. So what would you see? And that's really the thing. He would not have much of an audience besides God. But after all, God is the most important audience. And it really kind of brings it to that point that when you're looking at popular people, their approval of you is really what you're seeking is the approval of God. And you're looking for it not from God, but from creatures, from other human beings. And there's actually kind of a fascinating thing that happens. And you'll find this for anyone who becomes popular. The curious thing that they will find is that the praise, the adulation of the crowds, and so on, never means anything. And the reason it never means anything is that basically every time they actually meet their fans, they're disappointed. And they're disappointed not because there's anything wrong with their fans. Their fans are human beings, and therein lies the problem. The moment they actually meet their fans, the moment that a crowd cheering for you becomes individual people when you meet them, you can't help but face the fact that these are human beings like you and not God. And so that thunderous noise that you heard wasn't the voice of God. It was just a lot of individual human beings. And if you had a lot of human beings together, all you get is a lot of human beings. And so and actually, you'll occasionally see about popular YouTubers, people, with 100 times as many subscribers as me getting burnout. One of the curious things is when you do interact with people at all, some of them will, some small fraction of them will have desires from you. They will be doing basically the same thing. They'll be looking for God in you too, and they will be disappointed in you. And the thing is, while their adulation will fall very far short of feeling like the voice of God when you actually meet them, their requests of you are human requests, and you will naturally feel bad about denying human requests of people, but the numbers make it such that you have to. It's impossible not to. And so there's a lot of psychological difficulty that the popular YouTubers report having because they can't give to the people who ask them, because so many people are asking from them, and there's nothing on the flip side that really buoys them up. So they run into an interesting problem. But this also, by the way, applies in somewhat lesser degree outside of the online world, that when you have people who are popular because of, this will tend to be in relatively small scenes. So like if you're into hobbies, for example, you will have the people who are the most popular. So like if you're into dancing, they'll be the best dancer on the dance floor. And you'll get this exact same problem somewhat in miniature. And being somewhat in miniature, it's not as bad. Because you can actually interact with people and they can interact with you. If there are only 40 people in the room, then you get to know each other and you can actually do that. But there's still the same problem, and the other person faces another, which I alluded to before. The popular person also faces a major temptation, which is their popularity is dependent upon people liking them, and so they want people to like them. And they will have some amount of rational control over their actions. They'll have principles and so on, at least some of them. Not all of them, and not having principles and not having rational control can often help here in terms of being popular. So there's a bit of a selection criteria against people with good self-control and strong principles and so on. But in any event, whatever they have, they will face a tremendous amount of temptation, and if they don't have those things, then they'll give into it all the easier to tell people whatever they want to hear, to affirm them. And it's something I've seen happen a lot, where you get this really pernicious cycle, this very vicious cycle of where the person likes the popular person because the popular person is telling them what they want to hear, and this makes the popular person recognize this on some level, and so tells them what they want to hear. And this is a terrible exchange for both of them, because both of them are essentially agreeing, I will pretend to be God if you pretend to be God for me. And this is one of the worst deals you could possibly make in this world, because, well, that's idolatry. And it's a sort of mutually reinforcing idolatry. It's really bad all around. So basically, the bottom line of it is be very, very careful of when popular people are praising you. It's a subset of just be careful when anybody is praising you. Praise is nice, but it's very dangerous, and your happiness will come most of all from focusing on doing things that are worthy of praise that people won't notice or people won't even see, and God will, and that's a pretty good audience. Until next time, may you hit everything you aim at,